Hola! I'm going to be sharing a 4-part series on wealth, royalty, consciousness based upon my personal experiences with the teachings of my guru, Dr. Pillai. I will be sharing more about Dr. Pillai in the description, where you can find links to his works and to his academy. This 4-part series, I will be addressing the ancestors. What are the ancestors' influences upon our personal wealth? I will be addressing negative money karma. I will be addressing the goddesses of wealth and the different chants and mantras that we can begin to implement and integrate into our lives. And why these chants and mantras? What happens when we chant these mantras and these chants? So let us begin. What is wealth consciousness, and how do our ancestors affect what we are experiencing right now in this moment in our money, our financial affairs, and our wealth? This is my understanding, and this is what I've been doing to continually heal the consciousness of my soul around money, wealth, affluence, luxury, well-being. Well, wealth consciousness, when we think about the consciousness, it's our awareness. It has to do with our ability to know, and in the knowing, it's also what we are reflecting outwards. We can have a scarcity consciousness. Many people do. I had it. Lack and limitation and poverty, and not only poverty, but extreme poverty. Now, I've not experienced any of that, but I've helped a lot of people who have experienced poverty and extreme poverty as a missionary, going into poor areas and helping, and not only with the practical everyday things that people need to survive, but also tools that support and heal the soul to come into alignment with the higher laws of the universe. Wealth is our divine birthright. And if we're not in that vibration, why not? If it's our divine birthright, why don't we have it? And there's a lot of factors in play, including political and social, economical, race, religion, a lot of factors in play, even with class. But what most people are not aware of is the influence of our ancestors on our current wealth status. So with the wealth consciousness, being aware of to the point that we are actually operating from that, the wealth consciousness versus the scarcity consciousness. Now the influence, and I'm going to be talking in this series, I'll be talking more about the wealth consciousness and addressing it and going deeper, because this is what I know to be true. There are degrees, levels of awareness. For instance, you can have a kindergarten. In fact, right now I have the honor of teaching and imparting to a little girl here in Oaxaca, Mexico, who, when I started teaching with her, and this is all volunteer, she was unschooled, she was uneducated, but she was bright and brilliant. And she only had so much information and awareness and exposure. And it's through our time together, and it's only once a week, 1 hour a week, through our time together, where she couldn't even have control over a pen. Now she's writing her full name, and she could read it, and she's got her math, she's getting her math, and the more I give her, the more she absorbs, and the more her consciousness expands, the more her mind is aware. And so it's the same with wealth consciousness. We could be at the baby beginning level, kindergarten level, where we don't know too much and we don't have control over our circumstances. And then the more we receive the tools and the information and become aware, our consciousness expands. And this is also what happens around wealth. And if you're on a spiritual path, many on a spiritual path have a scarcity consciousness. I'm sorry, I said it. I know I did. So but now I don't. Now it continues to expand and expand and expand and expand. So what do the ancestors have to do with our wealth consciousness, our ability to receive wealth, our ability to create wealth, our ability to really have wealth, affluence, luxury? Well, first of all, let me just go back to when I'm saying these words, when I started teaching on feminine wealth back in 2015, a lot of people in the spiritual community were not happy that I was teaching this. Well, I have to say that if you're not happy about even the word wealth or luxury, abundance, then there's a problem, because you're not in alignment with the higher frequencies of the laws of the universe, which is a wealthy, expansive universe. So when I started teaching this, I got a lot of pushback, Now it's a bit more accepted and integrated into the spiritual community. But here's another thing. Our ancestors have a huge effect on our wealth, on our money, on our riches, on our divine birthright. If you are experiencing certain symptoms in your financial affairs, in your wealth, in your money, you might want to look back on what's going on with your ancestors. We receive, as Dr. Pillai says, he calls it soul genetics. We receive the DNA, the genetic DNA, physical DNA, color of my eyes, my ability, my intelligence, the color of my skin, my gifts of music and dance, science. Those are genetically inclined. We get the genetics of our ancestors, correct? Well, we also receive the soul genetics, the beliefs of our ancestors, the consciousness of our ancestors, the wealth consciousness or scarcity consciousness of our ancestors. And here's the other thing. We know about the science of epigenetics, how even trauma can be passed down through the generations from our ancestors. Where does that leave us? If you're having challenges with your wealth, with your money, with your ability, you can make a lot of money and then you lose it. Here's some symptoms. You can make a lot of money, then lose it. You can make a lot of money, get into a relationship, and then lose it. It's always a struggle to make money. You don't look at your bank account. You're money adverse, you're number adverse. There are, using money for addictions. There's so many aspects to how the influence of our ancestors can be showing up in our current life. Scarcity, right? Now, I'm not going into the socio-political, economic influences upon our lives. I'm specifically talking about the ancestors. So when you have ancestral interference, when we have the genetics of our ancestors who said there's not enough money, no money, no honey, I know about that one. There's so many beliefs around money. It's going to be easier for a poor person to get into heaven than, a rich man. There's so many beliefs that come down through our ancestors. Here's the other thing. There are things, and we all have it, in our ancestral lineage, unless we're a sitter, unless we have been this very evolved avatar who came to planet Earth. But right now, as divine humans living in these physical bodies, we have ancestors who were imperfect and may have, most likely, done something around money that was out of integrity, maybe even illegal, maybe even destroyed someone else's life. Maybe we had ancestors who had debt, and now you can't figure out why you have so much debt, right? It's an ancestral influence. Or you never even learned the language of money. There are families, when they sit around a table, they're talking money. They're talking money with their children. It's like inhaling and exhaling. I didn't have that. But I thank God for my parents. They worked hard to make sure I had a very nice childhood living in a beautiful middle-class Puerto Rican neighborhood. They were hardworking and they were professionals. They didn't start that way. But that's what I got. That's the mantra I got. You got to work hard for the money, right? Where did my parents get their beliefs, right? They got it from their parents and their grandparents, and it passes down. So there may be ancestral interference. We receive the ancestral codes. We also receive class from our parents. What class were you born into? The levels of wealth most often depends on the class we were born into. And in some societies, you can never leave that class. In a Western society, there's a chance that you can become wealthy, a really high chance that you could become wealthy. And we have to be careful that in the becoming wealthy, that we are using that wealth with integrity in the dharmic way for the higher purposes. So that's the influence of our ancestors. So here's another thing. Now, I didn't receive this particular teaching from Dr. Pillai. I believe it was Master Gibson, or maybe it was one of my Chinese Grand Master Teacher. Here's how you could tell what's going on with your ancestors. If you're struggling with money, they're struggling with money on the other side. If you're having a problem with your home, keeping your home, they're having a problem on the other side. If there is like if you're hungry, they're hungry. You're thirsty, they're thirsty. Your ancestors always want the best for you. Let me just say that. Your ancestors always want the best for you. They always want the best for you. They always want the best for you. And it's most often that there's one person in the family like me, probably like you, who's maybe the black sheep, or maybe the person who's the most spiritual, the most spiritually sensitive. And then the ancestors come and disturb the peace until they get your attention, because they want to bless you, but they need your help to bless them. They need your help to ascend to the evolution of their souls. And there's a lot to say on this. It's just a little short thing on the ancestors. The ancestors need our help, and we need the help and the blessings from the ancestors. So here's tip number 1. What can we do on any level, no matter whether you're poor, or actually even the wealthy? I have had very wealthy clients, like multimillionaires, who have horrific ancestral interference and karma and ended up in prison. It's not about how much money you have. It's also about how much money you have that's being circulated in Dharma for the higher purposes. And we actually need that at this time. We need the wealth, royalty consciousness at this time on planet Earth, because the whole thing with la pandemia, with the pandemic, caused a major shift. And part of that shift is a disruption to the financial systems, which is now really being overtaken in the digital field. That's another conversation. But I want to say this to you. Here's tip number 1. Your ancestors will be very blessed if you make a daily offering. It's very simple. It's called the Tarpanum. And I'm going to post a video in the description on how to offer Tarpanum to your ancestors. Tarpanum is a term that I understand through Dr. Pillai, my guru. And what you're going to do is every day, very simple, get some black sesame seeds, some rice or rice flour, you need water, and you need some coins. It's very simple. And each and every morning after sunrise, between sunrise and sunset, but especially at sunrise, because that's when everybody wants to eat, right? You offer the sesame seeds, the rice or the rice flour, the coins, and the water to your ancestors. Now, in the video I'm going to put in the link, you will see how to do it. It is actually demonstrated by one of the teachers of the Pillai Center, one of Dr. Pillai's master teachers. But it's simple. You just take the offering and you put it in your hands, and you put the coins and the sesame seeds and the flour in your hand, in your right hand, actually, in your right hand, and with the water, you pour it out. You could pour it down the drain, you could pour it out in your yard, you could pour it out, the offering, and while you are pouring it out and giving this offering, ancestors, I invite you to take this energy. 3 generations, 4 generations on my mother's side, 4 generations on my father's side. Take this energy. Be healed. Be at peace. Cross into the light. And please don't forget to bless me. Simple as that. It only takes like 5 seconds. Do it every day. Do it consistently. And expect the blessings. Expect things to get better. It gets better over time. Sometimes it's like, wow, and sometimes it takes time. So it's better over time. Because your ancestors are on the other side, and often there is not enough energy and prayers going to them for the ascension of their soul. So we feed them every day. We give them something, water to drink every day. We give them money, coins every day. This is one of the many processes, tips, procedures, protocols that you can do for your ancestors. There are more, but this one specifically comes from Dr. Pillai. And I invite you to try this. I bless you. This is part 1 of Wealth, Royalty, Consciousness. Blessings to you, my friends. So it is, so it is, and so it is. Please subscribe, comment, put a thumbs up, share. This is information that's going to help many, 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 many people. Blessings to you.